Communicating with the deaf and hard of hearing. Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind, tips and best practices. Tip 1. Use words deaf or hard of hearing. Avoid the term impaired. Impaired, the word itself means something that is broken. Yeah, look at me. Do I look broken? No, I'm fine. So you look at that word impaired as if we're broken or we need to be fixed. No, we're fine. We function just fine in life. I drive a car. I have a job. I went to college. I graduated. What do I need to fix? I don't need to fix anything. I'm deaf or I'm hard of hearing. Tip 2. Include everyone in your conversations.
One thing I really hate is when I see a group of people having a conversation and I notice them laughing about something. So I step up and say, hey, what's going on? One thing that I never want to hear is, I'll just tell you in a minute, or, it's not important. I don't really feel included in that conversation, and that is something we really need to avoid.
Tip 3. Be patient if miscommunication occurs.
The interesting thing about communication is that miscommunications happen. And when they happen, some people feel scared or they're worried about the misinterpretation, the misunderstanding. They may have negative feelings arise, or they're trying to feel out the situation. Maybe they're intimidated, maybe they're a little anxious, irritated. There's no need for that. Take the time to clarify the communication, to clear up the air. We're all busy people, but it's not an excuse for us to say, hey, let's hold everything up and let's just take the time to really work together to understand each other, whether that's in sign language, writing back and forth, gesturing with body language, or what have you. We can take a positive perspective to work together. We're all in this together, and that's the beauty of USDB.
Tip 4. USDB interpreters are available. Schedule and use them.
One of the beautiful things about USDB is that we have access to interpreters, not just for us as deaf people, but for everyone else as well. And we have wonderful interpreters here at USDB that make every effort to facilitate communication.
Tip 5. Look directly at the deaf person, not the interpreter, when communicating.
Here at USDB, we have staff interpreters available, and so take advantage of that. If you have a planned meeting ahead of time, request the interpreter, make sure that everyone has full access. When you are talking with me, make sure that you have direct eye contact and that you are speaking directly to me. Use pronouns like I or you, and not he said or she said. I want to feel like you are having the conversation with me, and the interpreter is only there to facilitate the communication.
Tip 6. Everyone is responsible for effective communication, not just the deaf.
When you are thinking of meeting with a deaf person, it's important that you first know your abilities. If you can communicate in ASL, then there's no need for an interpreter. We can just communicate directly. But if you don't know any sign, often people assume that it is the deaf person's responsibility to request an interpreter. No, you too can request an interpreter. Deaf people have been shouldering the responsibility our entire lives for requesting interpreters. Really, you need the interpreter as well. It's not just us. It's typically people envision it's an interpreter for the deaf. No, it's for us to have a conversation, to communicate. So request that interpreter yourself. It's part of being here and working on campus. Just do that. It's easy.
Tip 7. With impromptu interactions, use text or written communication.
If you happen to encounter a deaf person and you don't know sign language but want to communicate with them, modern day technology is awesome. We have our phones and can utilize the speech to text feature to communicate back and forth easily. It's important to know that not all deaf can lip read. You may have to use gesturing or writing back and forth, maybe using a whiteboard. Also, if you feel that you're not being understood, the deaf person may know of somebody nearby who could help facilitate that communication if needed. The important thing is making the effort and showing respect for them in demonstrating that you want to have a conversation with them. I promise you that the deaf will trust you and then in turn make the effort to communicate with you.
Final tip, plan shorter virtual meetings and include breaks when possible.
When you are having a meeting, you need to be mindful of the little things. A deaf person attending an online meeting for more than 2 hours can be challenging. We do experience eye strain, and many of us do check out at that point. So keeping that in mind, you can provide additional breaks or shorten the length of your meeting.
Again, welcome to USDB. I am happy that you have joined our team, and if you have more questions related to this topic, you can read the communication policy in depth. Thank you.